think that's a foot, yeah?
Yep.
Magic printed a card that you physically threw onto the battlefield. Another lets players gamble their cards. One starts a second game, and another makes sure no one wins. These are not custom cards. These are the most unhinged cards that Magic has ever created. And we start with Chaos Orb. This is Chaos Orb, one of the strangest cards from Magic's earliest years. Normally, destroying something in Magic is simple. Cast a spell, choose the target, resolve the effect. Chaos Orb decided that was too easy. To use it, you had to hold the card at least 1 foot above the playing area and physically flip it onto the battlefield. It had to turn completely over in air, and when it landed, the cards it touched were destroyed, along with Chaos Orb itself. So your removal spell could fail because you were bad at throwing cardboard. You could make the perfect strategic decision, spending the mana, line up the shot, and completely miss the table. And this creates some obvious problems. How far apart can players spread their cards? What counts as touching? Did the card rotate enough? Was it actually 1 foot above the table? Magic briefly stopped being a strategy game and became a tabletop carnival challenge. Chaos Orb is ridiculous, impractical, and exactly the kind of card that could only come from Magic's earliest, most experimental era. This is Contract from Below, and it comes from a time when Magic experimented with a mechanic called Ante. Under the original Ante rules, both players placed a random card from their decks aside before the game. The winner didn't just win the match, they won the cards that had been put at stake. Contract from Below made the gamble even bigger. For only 1 black mana, you discarded your hand, placed the top card of your library into the ante, and drew 7 new cards. The effect is unbelievably powerful. You could dump a terrible hand and immediately replace it with 7 fresh cards for almost no mana. But if you lost the game, the extra card you placed in the ante could leave with your opponent. And these weren't temporary tokens or imaginary points. These were actual cards from your collection. The card even tells you to remove it from your deck entirely if you aren't playing for Ante. Magic eventually abandoned the mechanic, and Ante cards were pushed out of sanctioned play. But Contract from Below remains one of the clearest examples of early Magic prioritizing a wild idea over everything that could possibly go wrong. Contract from Below could cost you a real card, but the next card could cost you something almost as valuable your entire evening. This is Shahrazad, and it may be one of the most absurd cards Magic has ever printed. For only 2 white mana, Shahrazad pauses the game that you are currently playing and makes everyone begin an entirely new game. That means you stop your current match, move aside, and shuffle up the remaining cards and play your second game. When the sub-game finally ends and you return to the original game, every player who failed to win the sub-game loses half their life rounded up. So imagine being 40 minutes into a match, finally getting your board established, and your opponent decides the solution is to start another match.
Stop it.
And because Shahrazad could theoretically be cast again inside the sub-game, the situation could
Get some help.
become even more ridiculous. The card was thematically clever, however, it inspired this storytelling from 1001 Nights. So the idea is essentially a story or a game inside of another story, but clever flavor does not make it practical. Shahrazad's caused serious tournament problems because it was drastically extending matches, and Wizards later established that normal black border sets should no longer create subgames. Period. Today, the card remains banned in Legacy and stands as one of the clearest examples of early Magic asking, could we do this? Long before, should we do this? This next one is Divine Intervention. A card with one of the strangest objectives in Magic. It doesn't destroy your opponent. It doesn't give you an alternate win con. It doesn't even technically help you win. Its goal is to force the game to end in a draw. Divine Intervention enters the battlefield with 2 intervention counters on it, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you remove one. When the final counter comes off, the game immediately ends and nobody wins. Imagine playing Commander for 2 hours. Everyone has built a massive board states. No, God! Drawn half their decks and fought through multiple board wipes. Then one player drops Divine Intervention and says, actually, none of this mattered. Now the entire table has to either win before the final counter disappears or remove the enchantment, or accept that everyone is going home without a victory. It costs 8 mana, takes time to activate, and gives the table a chance to stop it, but it doesn't make the idea any less ridiculous. Most Magic cards help you defeat your opponents. Divine Intervention looks at a victory itself and says, nope. Apparently, Chaos Orb wasn't enough physical activity for one card game. This is Falling Star. Another real Magic card that requires you to physically throw, or technically flip, the card into one playing area. You hold Falling Star at least 1 foot above the table and flip it through the air. Every creature it lands on takes 3 damage and becomes tapped.
It's time to stop! It's time to stop, okay?
Must completely turn over at least once during the flip. If it doesn't, the spell does absolutely nothing. Unlike Chaos Orb, which focuses only on a chosen permanent under your current wording, Falling Star encourages you to land on as many creatures as humanly possible. Which immediately raises another question. What stops your opponent from spreading every creature 6 foot apart? Suddenly, battlefield organization becomes a defensive strategy. Forget armor, counter spells, protection. The best defense against falling stars might simply be to spread everything out, or your opponent having bad aim. This is less like casting a sorcery and more like playing a carnival game where the prize is 3 damage. This is one with nothing. Costs 1 black mana, can be cast at instant speed, and its entire rule text is 3 words. Discard your hand. That's it. You spend a card, 1 mana to throw every other card you currently have away. No card draw, no damage, no creature, no immediate reward printed anywhere on the card. It looks less like a spell and more like a button labeled destroy my own chances of winning. But here's what makes one with nothing especially interesting. It wasn't an accidental design failure. Magic designer Mark Rosewater later explained that the card was intentionally made to look grossly underpowered. It was designed for players who enjoyed taking cards everyone else considered terrible and finding creative ways to make them useful. In other words, Wizard printed a deliberately awful card as a challenge. And honestly, that makes it even more unhinged. One with nothing wasn't created because nobody noticed how bad it looked. It was created because they noticed and printed it anyway. This is Hot Soup.
Hot soup.
Not the name of a joke card, not a fan-made design, an actual piece of equipment printed in Magic 2015. You can attach the bowl of soup to a creature, and that creature can no longer be blocked. Apparently, no one wants to stand in front of someone carrying boiling liquid. But whatever the equipped creature takes damage, it is immediately destroyed. The idea seemed to be that the creature spills the soup, suffers the consequences, and dies, which is a surprisingly severe punishment for dropping lunch. And because this is magic, you can equip hot soup on practically anything. Soldiers, dragons, demons, ancient monsters capable of destroying entire worlds. It doesn't matter how terrifying the creature is, give it some soup, and suddenly nobody is willing to block it. Hot Soup is the most powerful card on this list, and it isn't even historically controversial. But in a game filled with cosmic horrors, multiversal wars, and ancient magical artifacts, I respect the confidence required to introduce a bowl of soup and treat it like a legitimate combat equipment. So, which of these cards is the most unhinged? Well, for me, the funniest is Hot Soup. But ultimately, Chaos Orb hands down takes the cake for me. It's something about a magical game that was designed to be all strategy, resource management, and we just turn it into flipping cardboard through there. Uh, but the best thing about the early parts of Magic, this is where Magic and Wizards were really figuring out what they could do and what they were capable of. Let me know which card you think deserves the title of Magic's most unhinged card. Subscribe because we're going to be digging into more lore and unhinged cards. Magic's history. Actually, Terminator. I'll see you in the next one.